Welcome back to Hall of Fame and Horns Down podcast production of this special emergency podcast. The Oklahoma Sooners let go of co-offensive coordinator Seth Littrell, elevate the other co-offensive coordinator, Jon Finley, and it is officially crazy time in Norman. We have our special guest in here, Chris Mason, as well, to talk about this. Okay, Chris,
hey,
talk to me about what you're hearing about this stuff, and let us know what you guys. We'll go ahead and start off with you, Chris, and then Chris Mason, you go ahead.
So I think Chris definitely knows. I texted him this morning and said, "Hey, I'm hearing that moves are going to be made, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Have you heard anything? Not yet. But you're hearing it kind of pop up. You're hearing whispers of the wind, all the rest of this stuff. You're hearing that some moves may have been made last week or whatever the case may be. But regardless, what I would say is simply this right here. It happened. People, it happened. This is not a fire drill. We are here, right? This is a move that had to happen. Seth Littrell, good guy. Wish the best of luck to him down the road. Whatever he's doing, just didn't work here. One thing I definitely want to talk about right here. I think this is the perfect segue into this right here. People, if you're wondering why Seth Littrell is gone, we talk about the eye test, but I'm going to lean a little bit into Nino's corner real quick. I'm going to add this to the stage. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think this right here is pretty self-explanatory, right? If you look at those numbers,
hold it up just a little bit if you can.
Yeah, I got you. Let's see. Make sure. Is that better?
Pretty good. That looks pretty good, yeah.
So that's year over year, right?
Huh?
Is that year over year, the delta, the value, or
what?
Well, it's just, I mean, we're talking he's only been here this year.
Yeah, he's only
I sorry, I thought you were showing us like a comp.
No, this is not a comp. This is this year.
Okay.
This is 20. This is a 24 season right here. Like this is, and people, the reason why I'm coming into this is simply because look at those numbers and look at the rank right there by it, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty self-explanatory right here. And you could talk about the pass game too as well. It's bad, people. Like this is historically bad. This is history that's being made here at OU. I believe what Layman said earlier on their podcast on the breakdown, as far as a bunch of the stats that you may say, oh, well, the defense didn't do this or do that. You could literally point to the offense and say, okay, well, they're putting the defense in a really, really bad position, as you could see yesterday. But when you look at these numbers here, you look at our yards per rush, 3.1 yards per rush, 36 rushes per game. We're averaging about they're saying 111 yards per game, and that's really being generous on the ground. As far as you're looking at passing yards or whatever the case may be, total offense, I mean, 288 yards per game. Like that's not winning football, people. And I think people notice that. But it's noticeable, obviously, with the eye test. But just looking at the stats, knowing that that's what we've done 7 games into this season, especially coming off of that loss that was yesterday, people, this is bad. It got really bad. I love BV. I think BV is the answer, and I think his defense, all the rest of the stuff, love all of that. And he's made some incredible hires. He took chances on guys like Valai, Brandon Hall, guys like that, Chavis, and everything. But you see those moves actually working out. You see Chavis now looks like he's starting to really work out and come into form with the DNs, right?
No doubt.
But when you look at the offensive side of the ball, that is where kind of the question marks become. This is where you basically say, hey, I'm at a 4-way stop. I'm at an impasse right now. Either I go left and I become Lincoln Riley and I hire somebody that is still inept, not able to really run my offense, or you go and you be Bob Stoops and better, right? And go find you an actual OC that can call this offense. We can't see numbers like this again. It doesn't matter. It's not even that the fact that we're in the SEC. It's not even the fact. It's just the simple fact that maybe 1 to 2 of those 3 losses that we have right now don't happen if we have a competent offense. So,
well, and that's where I would ask that's where I'd ask Chris Mason where he thinks on this too, is that I think that because this fire it's the signal of the things to come, because you can't expect that they're going to get a whole lot better right now this second with Jon Finley calling plays. At least that's not where I'm at on it. Do you feel like this is the next move, that this is just a signal though to your recruits and to things like that, like we were talking about yesterday, Chris?
I do. I mean, I do think the only thing I think could make things better is the promotion of Kevin Johns to quarterback coach for the remainder of the season.
Right,
okay?
right.
A real quarterback coach. I mean, I think that was always, if there was an analysis piece of this that I think we all kind of missed, we knew it was there, but we liked the Littrell story was a good story. You know, we liked Seth. We liked what he was doing offensively previously. I think the one element that the under-analysis of this, which I think everybody, and I'm talking about all OU media, we kind of all knew this but didn't really emphasize it, was the lack of a true quarterback coach. Seth is not a quarterback coach. When Kevin Wilson, for instance, was offensive coordinator, he had Josh or Chuck Long working with him.
Sure.
So you had a true quarterback coach, right? So I think the promotion of Kevin Johns could potentially improve things, that you now have a quarterback coach on the sideline who is the ultimate authority talking to the quarterbacks during the game and during practice week. So it's hard for me to know what impact that could have, but I think that's the small thing that could. But yeah, guys, I hate using this term, but my brother was at the game yesterday, and he said the crowd atmosphere was palpable in terms of they were expecting failure, that it was a quiet crowd,
right,
that there was a toxic kind of environment. That's how he described it.
Didn't hear like a ton of booing. It didn't feel like on the broadcast even.
They were resigned. I mean, they were yelling. There were people yelling.
Correct.
It's kind of resigned to that. Oh crap! It's going to happen again. Sooner Legends is right. Kevin Johns will be the QB coach. So I think this is a self-preservation move by Brent, right? You make this move now. Rich, my brother described it as sort of like pitchforks and lanterns time, right? Correct. So you're giving
getting out with the question was that, is this
you're giving the angry mob a body to put on a meat, to use the Mussolini history for those who don't know it. Mussolini got, when Italy, during World War II, when the Allies finally took Rome and they finally got hold of Mussolini, they hung him on a meat hook in town, and old ladies came into town and stabbed him and beat him. So wow. That's the over the top analogy I use for this. Brent's giving the OU fan base their scapegoat to metaphorically go into town square and hit with a bat a couple of times. So this is, obviously. So guys, last week a source told me that big names are already starting to contact OU. Okay, I'm not at liberty to discuss those names because it would give away what my source told me. But I have told, I've reviewed the name, and there's no way I would say it's not a big name, right? I'm like, okay, all right, that's a big name. So I haven't, I can't put it on my Patreon site or anywhere else because I just can't. But big names are already contacting OU. Okay, they were.
Sure.
So those names, if that's the caliber of name that's going after this job, there is no way that anybody on the offensive staff is safe until someone new is hired and has a chance to review who they want to keep and who they're getting rid of.
Right. So it's essentially, okay, Chris, this is just, what you were saying. This had to come. It was coming either way. And this is just the start of, they're going to try to get through the rest of the season. Hopefully it's, I think saw in the chat.
Coaching. Jon Finley and Kevin Johns are coaching for their next job.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
If they improve and the offense improves, they're not staying, right? But they'll have some resume pieces for their next position.
Correct. And I think that's where you're at this point, because with this defense, you have to do something to try to spur this offense a little bit, right, Kchris? So you have to get something going. And if it's help the quarterbacks be better, I mean, you think about what you saw from Jackson Arnold when he came in last night. I mean, he was 50%. It's not like it was a whole lot better. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over, didn't have the catastrophic stuff go on like we'd seen before, but it's not as if he was a whole lot better. So I think you have to find a way to do something to mitigate the rest of the season so that you're not getting blown out by teams like South Carolina.
Yeah, no. And you gave up about 15 points to South Carolina yesterday, which is about what I think a lot of people really expected. A lot of people expected that game to be kind of like a 17-13, maybe a 24-17 type ordeal, going down to like the final quarter, OU on top. I think that's what a lot of people thought, especially us playing at home, but that didn't happen. But you have to segue, you have to transition this offense into something that gives you easier looks, right? As far as what they've been doing with the East Coast, West Coast offense is just not happening. It's just not good. I mean, you see guys like Jacob Jordan come out there and do really good things, and you're wondering why can't these other guys do that as well? But people, I'm here to tell you, I was watching the Texas game. It was just a mix up. I was there at the Texas game. It was a mix up of everything. It was bad coaching, bad play calling, bad player just not being able to see the field right correctly. And there's guys that are running open. Guys are trying to get open. Guys are getting open. You just have to find them. Now what it looks like is that you're going back to Arnold. You have to give him easy looks. Get him into rhythm. He's a rhythm passer. Get him into a rhythm. Get him a little bit hot, and give him the over the top throws to kind of take that hood off the defense, right? With Hester, with Brennan Thompson. I guess the question to the panel now and to the chat, with Joe Jon, obviously I've seen people in here say, well, okay, well, are we back to running the RPO? What are we running with Joe Jon? Because I don't think it's going to be more the same. I'm hoping it's not.
I think it's got to stay similar. It's going to be similar to what you had already, obviously. But you got to remember that when Jeff Lebby left at the end of last season, he famously told Brent Venables that Joe Jon was ready to call the offense as it was right then and there. So the idea was, I mean, he was obviously endorsing Joe Jon to become the offensive coordinator and play caller, because it would have run basically just as it had run under Jeff. And say what you want, they were top 5 in the country last year under Jeff Lebby in that offense. So does it go back to that? I don't know. I don't know that that's necessarily what fits, but if that's why Jackson Arnold stayed at Oklahoma, was because he had that conduit to run the offense that they were running and that he was getting used to under Jeff Lebby, it would make sense to go back to that style of play overall, in my opinion. Chris, what do you think? You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. It's just trying to make sure I don't interrupt, putting myself on mute there. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I just want someone to say, this is what I do, this is what we're going to be, and I'm going to call plays like this. I'm going to run with what I know and what I can call with the look and feel. So if Joe Jon comes back with the and it's the full RPO Lebby experience and it moves the ball, I'm so agnostic at this point about. You say, well, how do you want us to look? I don't care. It can be 3 llamas at wide receiver as long as it moves the freaking football. I mean, I really don't care at this point structurally what we do. If the play caller has a rhythm to what he wants to do, some intention to what he's doing, and just does it. And if Arnold can piece together 300 yards passing and 100 yards rushing doing the Jeff Lebby thing with what we currently have and can score 24 points a game, fine. Okay. Maybe that, you can beat Maine with that. And maybe you can get maybe the defense with an offense that is being a little more consistent can pull some turnovers and we can pull an upset against somebody and get bowl eligible. But other than that, I don't, just run something you believe in and that you have a feel for how it works. And if that's the RP, if that's Jon Finley's like, I know the freaking RPO. I know Lebby's taught it to me. I've got the keys to the machine. We've got guys on the offense. We've got guys on offense that know how to run it. Jason Jordan can be our Drake Stoops and catch 10 passes a game for 80 yards or something like that. And we can go over the top with Thompson like we were last year. We have something resembling what the Arizona game offense look like if we get some wide receivers back. And then those wide receivers know how to do if that's what it is, I'm fine with that. Just do something the last 5 weeks that shows any incremental improvement, consistency, and is not a complete, execution. Where have somebody already dropped an F-bomb on this? Are we already explicit, Chris and Jason? So it's just so it's
you can drop them on.
All right. I just didn't know if we were already there. I didn't want to break the seal there. So let's just if I just want somebody that it looks like they know what they want to do, and it's not an effing shit show for 60 minutes, right? And if that's the RPO, run it, old Dame. But if you can get me 400 yards of offense, you can stop Luke Alzinga from having more punt yardage than our offensive yardage, and keep him from being the MVP of every game. That's my goal, And if that means Jackson Arnold running in the RPO with the wide receivers we have, and you can piecemeal together some drives and some points, sure. No, Seth, I feel for Seth because this is a career death move. I don't know where he goes from here. I mean, he's going to have to be he's going to be an analyst. He's not going to be an on the field coach, whatever that means in today's NCAA.
I think the good news is with him, he's got a decent, nest egg built up from what he's done in the past. He's been a coordinator already. Yeah. And he actually did a good job.
I know OU will take care of him. He has a contract. OU will pay that out.
Yeah,
and take care of him. I mean,
he's run through 2020.
He's not. He's gonna have to go be like an analyst for Matt Wells at K-State or something like that, or something like that. Somebody in the Oklahoma area. Maybe he goes.
I would say that when it comes to that stuff, I wouldn't worry about that. The thing is with Seth, he's got first. I mean, he was the best man in Hype's wedding, wasn't he? It's not like he doesn't have a group of guys that he's been working with all this time anyway, from Texas Tech, it's and everywhere else. It's not like he doesn't have a network. So I wouldn't worry too much about Seth. These coaches, I mean, we get the idea, they have families. You start listening to the Mike Gundy bullshit where they got families and God forbid you fire them. They get paid very well. And whether they're coordinators, and once you get to that coordinator range and you're making $1 million a year, you're making loot. He was a head coach at North Texas for 4 or 5 years anyway. That he did. The one thing is people are saying, well, why did they make this hire? Okay, well, I would tell you that he did a very good job when he was at Carolina. He did a really good job at Indiana. And then whenever he got the job at North Texas, they won 9 games 2 years in a row. It was the first time in 40 years North Texas had won 9 games, and he was calling the plays there. So I would say that has it been good here? No. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you tried to marry 2 systems that are distant cousins from each other and didn't really work together, very well in view of unless you're, and Art Briles is a guy that can make it, he can make a move like that and he can make something like that work. These guys ain't Art Briles. Let's just make it real.
Yesterday, I think one thing that we didn't mention yesterday, this is when I kind of figured that we waved a white flag offensively, is when I started seeing us run slants. And the reason why I say that is because Seth Littrell doesn't run slants. if you guys have watched the championship standard, you've seen myself, you've seen Chris Mason over there with those guys. Those guys explained it very, very, very well. He doesn't run slants. That's not characteristic of Seth Littrell's offense. And Seth Littrell wants to get up and down the field, people. So yesterday when I saw that, I said, that's it. Seth Littrell is officially like, I've lost all faith. All faith, because I said that's not your offense. Now it's apparent to me that you are trying to marry two systems. You're not even really trying to simplify it. You're just trying to run whatever you possibly can to get the ball to get first down.
True. I agree. And I think that's you got to get the ball out fast. That we've been saying that for weeks and yet to really see it. A lot of times it takes too damn long to get the play off or get all the moving parts out of the way where the guy is getting the ball out. Get the guy some easy reads, whoever it is. And I'm guessing that they're gonna stick with Jackson for now. And I think that's fine. But you gotta, no matter what, you've got to get the football out. And slants are indicative of you being able to get the football out quickly. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, to me the Seth was poisoned by trying to run an offense he doesn't know. That's not his fit. And obviously the myriad of mistakes, injuries, mishaps, bad evaluations, whatever, wrap everything up in a big ball. The offensive line, I mean, if the offensive line was competing at a C level, then we're not here. But it's everything that's gone on has crippled the wide receiver injuries, everything else. I mean, it's like, have you guys watched the Chernobyl thing on HBO back a couple of years ago, right? And the guys like at the Central Committee of the Communists, whatever, showing how the meltdown occurred, right? It's not one mistake, right? It's 5 and 10 things in a row going wrong at the same time. So we're crippled wide receiver core. Bill made bad evaluations in the portal. Then Bill had injuries with the guys he thought were going to play for him. Then Caden Green dumped off to Missouri where he's gotten benched. Should have stayed at Oklahoma, dude. Grass isn't always greener. And then the tight end room is still a mess. And then your two young quarterbacks have not developed, have had bad starts to the season. So, are all those things Seth's fault? No, but the buck stops with him. He's the offensive coordinator, and the offense, as Chris showed, is, the only offenses that are, I mean, we're in the same state FSU and Michigan are in, right? Pretty much. I mean, FSU's in a worse position than us just because they have a harder schedule. They don't have the 4 gimme wins that we're gonna bank. But we're in the same boat, it's Michigan, right? We lost our quarterback, lost our offensive line, lost our playmakers, and had injuries and coordination problems. And they're playing some 7th-year guy who's terrible. They lost to Illinois last week. They're going to lose probably 3 more games. Michigan will lose 3 more games on their schedule, I would guess. Similar. It's not one problem. It's a myriad. But Seth never took control of everything and said, we're going to run this and run this only. Buck stops with me. And I think they just lost so much development time in spring and August trying to meld stuff together instead of just, we're going to run this offense. This is what we're going to do. Remember the Titans time, right? I run 5 plays. It's like Novocaine. Just let it work.
We've been asking for that, though. That's what we're asking for here is to run down 5 plays and continue to run them.
Right.
You can run them out of different looks and do some of that stuff. And to be honest with you, I think that's what you saw with Levy. Now, you're getting a lot of people asking in the chat, obviously bringing up guys like Bill Bedenbaugh. That's a hot button issue when it comes to my channel, Chris's channel. We all have our own opinions about whether or not you want to keep Big Bill around. I would just tell you this. It's not going to be up to anybody aside from whoever you bring in to be the next full-time coordinator. This is a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound, for lack of a better term. This is to try to just mitigate until you get through the end of the season. Hopefully you get any kind of production out of this offense, because at Oklahoma, you don't just mail in a season. So something had to be done, you know. But I would tell you, as far as like long term, I don't know that there's a single coach on that offensive staff that's safe. And to be fair, I think the next question that we got to ask, and Kchris, this is where I was headed with you next, is how safe is Brent Venables?
I'll say this right here, 6-year extension, the $40 million buyout, whatever the case may be. I think Venables is safe simply because of the defense, right? I think we're not Iowa of the past or whatever the case may be. We just have bad offense right now, okay? But I think that I would like to go out on a limb and say that I believe a lot of OCs would be clamoring for this job, especially if I know Indiana's doing well. I know some of these other schools are doing well, SMU's, teams like that. But a job like this right here doesn't come open all that often as far as to be a OC, DC, whatever the case may be at University of Oklahoma. But I think a lot of people would be clamoring to get that job simply because they know that if you combine a competent offense or damn good offense with this defense, with what the current install is on defense, dude, come on, man. I think you're doing wonders, and you have talent. You have guys that are going to come back. You have guys that are coming in. I think you could salvage. I'm not even there yet with this class. I think people need to understand. I don't necessarily think that you lose a lot of recruits. Now, I'm not the recruiting expert. The guy underneath me is. But I would simply say this right here. I believe, and I think a lot of people believe, you have some great recruiters and some guys who have great connections on this staff right now. But as far as answering your question directly, I think that this is a do or die situation. Like I said, I think that Venables has to get it right, or that could spell disaster for him, because I don't know how many more chances he's going to have. But I do feel like, hey, Venables is the guy to lead us into that next chapter, and I think he's done a good job. I mean, last year to me was kind of just a great, launching pad for where we're trying to get to. I see the vision, not necessarily execution. And for all the people out there who are saying, well, he forced DG out, all the rest of the stuff, I'm starting to hear that's not necessarily the case. But I just feel like BV has to make the correct choice on offense to really get this thing going, because you do have guys, you can do things, but like I said, and I don't think anybody else is really keen, just literally keen in on that, right? The problem with Seth Littrell was not that we have these just horrible offensive numbers or whatever the case may be. It's the fact that you can't even move the ball, regardless of injuries or whatever the case may be. You can't even move the ball up and down the field, right? You can't get first downs, third down efficiency is terrible, all of those different things. We get down by 14 points, 10 points, whatever. Anytime a team scores 10 plus points, I just lose all faith, right? But BV has to get this higher right. But I think he's safe for at least another. If I'm just gonna go out on a limb, I think another 2 years, right? I think BV can get this situated. I still believe in him, but he's got to make the right decision. It's either now or never.
Right. Well, there are 100, and for the people that are, like Coach Roybal in here running his mouth, which is funny, by the way, the way that Notre Dame has been eating shit on the offensive side of the ball for the last few years, and you've been over there bitching and complaining like everybody else. Oklahoma is 129th in total offense, 129th, 107th in scoring offense. They can't even get a first down. What did anybody expect to happen here? I mean, I don't know what else you got to do something if you're Venables. Otherwise, it is your ass on the line at this point.
I would disagree with Chris just a little bit. I think Brent has one more year. If this OC hire doesn't land and things look better, with recognizing the fact that you have more home games next year, right? The schedule flips. We have more home games in terms of SEC games, and you're getting some SEC teams in Norman who probably are looking at a reversal of talent on their roster a little bit. I think. I mean, let's say things play out as we anticipate, and OU goes 5-7, 6-6, right? I think that's probably realistic.
You're on the hot seat then.
He's going to be on the hot seat. That's a second losing season in 3 seasons. That's not the OU standard since Bob took over. You cannot afford to have. You can't afford to be this mediocre in the SEC and remain relevant with recruits and the national presence. He's got to flip that around.
It doesn't. There's no time right here.
He's got to flip that around, because if he continues with another bad year next year, and you're not. I mean, 8-4 next year would be a perfectly fine schedule. That would be progress, improvement. Would be fine. Depends what that 8-4 is and all other values that none of us can know, right? But he's got to get to that. And if he doesn't, he's gone. Otherwise, Joe C is gone. I mean, Joe C's not exactly pulling off a lot lately. The basketball arena fiasco, now that it's going back up for a vote. Porter Moser wasn't a really good hire. Sure, Jenny Barachik's a great hire. Baseball looks great and softball looks good. But they don't pay the bills. They don't pay the bills. I mean, Patty Gasso's great, but she doesn't pay the bills, right? 100,000 people aren't coming to watch softball. So if Scott's right, but they're connected to each other, right?
Yeah, here's the deal. I would piggyback off what you're saying. You have to make this move that he made today and be ready to make a huge move at the end of the season too, right? You have to do it, because if not, I'm not telling anybody that I want to see Brent Venables leave. That's not what I'm telling you. But the money that runs through this program is demanding results now. And how far behind can you afford to get in the SEC? If you have this season, which you have to look at this point is possibly a losing season, 6-6, 5-7 could happen, right? Maybe not. But if that goes in, then he goes into next season on the hot seat. There's no two ways around it. My question to that is, what kind of coordinator do you get if that's the case?
Well, you pay enough money and it doesn't matter, right? I mean, you give somebody a contract for $2-3 million. You say, look, we're going to guarantee we're guaranteeing this contract. Then somebody doesn't worry about it. And as you said, it's a great situation if you can come in as an OC, because the bar is really low, right? So the bar is so low that if you come in as an OC and have an organized offense and can put some points on the board, you're going to be like, everyone's going to think, you're the next OC genius. John Russell asks, from my recruiting opinion, you're not going to come out of this postseason with both JA and Hawkins.
Jason, I like to stop there just for a second. And we can let Chris Mason go first though. Because it's how should I say this? Jackson looked more mature yesterday. Didn't come out there and do anything that was just like, oh my God, that's so amazing. But he stepped into the situation for what it was and went out there and did what he needed to do. At times it looked like he was a little bit more decisive. The touchdown pass to Brennan Thompson was great. That was a good ball. Perfect. Hit him in line. Did not have to wait on it, any of that. Just great read, all the rest of that. You saw some of the it looked like he was actually trying to go through progressions, different things like that. So he definitely stayed ready. His camp has been more or less quiet behind the scenes as far as kind of what's been going on with him. But on the other end of that, that's not necessarily the case. Obviously, Michael Hawkins' dad has kind of been on Twitter, reposting, doing different things like that. So I don't necessarily know kind of where you at on that situation, because obviously it'd be great if we kept both of them, but regardless if we kept both of them, I am in the minority opinion that you may have to go into the portal to get a quarterback, and not a Casey Thompson per se. And to be honest with you, if neither one of these guys are working, you burn the red shirt, whatever the case may be. Casey Thompson may need, if he's healthy, if he's ready to play, he may need to get a bump up just to at least see what's going on there. But regardless, though, you can't go and get another, Casey Thompson. You have to actually go get somebody who could add depth and, like, as you say, competitive depth, right? A Preston Stone, possibly, if he jumps into the portal, whatever the case may be. But I feel that you have to do that. And like you've been saying, Chris Mason, you have to make this an open competition, an actual open competition all the way up to the end of fall camp before you play, who is it, Temple or whoever in that first game next year, Illinois State or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, I think first again, I'm being completely sort of agnostic on this. I'm unemotional. I don't care if they both leave. If we're playing terrible, if this continues the rest of the season and they both leave, I don't care. Okay, go get the big time offensive coordinator and go drop cash for a quarterback. Fine, Kevin Sperry. Probably is going to enroll. You've got Brandon Zerbrug redshirting, developing, I guess. I'm not sure how much, I love Zerbrug on film. I'm not sure how much I trust the development environment there. But yeah, I mean, if again, this is the same thing this is what Brent has to learn. Don't let this whole quarterback nonsense decide what you do. Hire who you want. Tell them to implement the offense you want, and we'll figure the quarterback situation later. The portal's now available, right? Miami basically didn't get their quarterback until the very end, okay? They didn't get their quarterback until the very end. Everyone thought that kid was going pro. So just have some money available. Ask your offensive coordinator who you want. If he says, I want this guy, and he's in the portal, go get him. Bring him in, and Arnold and Hawkins aren't both leaving, right?
No, it'll be one or the other, I would think.
One or the other. So
yeah.
Let that guy compete and get some competition in here. Let's get a Jason White, Nate Hibble competition. Let's get two guys competing. Stop pre-anointing guys before they've played a damn season of football at an all-conference level.
Right.
That's the mistake they made. Didn't Seth just said, I'm running my offense. It's going to be the offense I want to run, and the quarterback position is open in spring. I have all faith in Jackson Arnold, but he's done nothing to justify being named starter after one bowl game and one game against BYU. So open competition. I love Michael Hawkins. And then add that pressure in spring and don't name a guy and say, I'm not naming our starter until 2 weeks before the Temple game. Guys, go compete. Iron versus iron, steel versus steel, whatever, and what fake cliche you want to use. Get better week over week. So that's what I think needs to happen. Again, that's presuming that we have, again, if Jackson Arnold being coached by Jon Finley and Johns, looks so much better, and we're all sort of scratching our head as to what the hell has gone on the first these 7 games, then it's a completely different picture. But if they are both struggling to the degree that they currently are and executing to the degree they are, you can't worry about either guy leaving. Go get an offensive coordinator and Seth and Brent needs to understand that it's one thing to promote to get a Zach Alley, a guy that will take over your defense, and that's your side of the ball. From here on out on the offensive side of the ball, he needs to hire big-time offensive coordinators, not promote from within. Every time he loses an offensive coordinator, go interview 5 elite guys from outside the program, hire the best one.
I agree. I don't have a problem with any of that. I think that in the end, there's basically still half the season to figure out what's going to happen here. And I would tell you that I think it was a lot more than just Seth Littrell, because this is a bunch of people all together, right? That have a lot of things, plus the people in the room have kind of conspired to see this precipitous drop, because it's been a precipitous drop. You think about what it was under Jeff Lebby. The first year they were top 15 offense in the country. The next year they were top 5. So as much as we really kind of hated the marriage between the two, maybe you get back, and I think that we gave Jeff Lebby a hard time, probably at times that we didn't need to, but other times I think that he deserved what he got. In the end, I think that you have to go with, what do you end up seeing the rest of the way? And again, I feel like this is just nothing but a Band-Aid. They're trying to see what they can do, and you have to make a big splash higher if you possibly can at the end of this season, because this isn't the standard at Oklahoma. You're used to seeing explosive offenses. I don't think you're expecting it to be the exact same thing, but you do have to have a serviceable offense to go with this juggernaut of a defense that you have. And I think that there's no two ways around it. You got to put points on the board. Right now, I don't know that any of us believe you can get over 14 points. We haven't even seen that in a few weeks.
If you could average at the very least maybe 17, 18 points per game,
you're going to win some games.
You're going to win some games. You may even end up winning a game or two that you don't necessarily have any business winning. You're giving the defense absolutely nothing to play for. They're going out there just playing off for pure pride right now. Let's just be honest. And let's be real. They're dealing with some key injuries. You know, talking to my uncle, I told him I don't think that Dolby necessarily hurt us all the way, but he was like, yeah, I think he did, simply because he makes us more flexible on defense, right? He gives us that guy, that ball hawk really in that intermediary as well. But I just feel like if you could at least average 17, 18 points per game, you're fine, right? You're fine. It's not perfect, but you're fine. You don't have what happened yesterday, right? And I've been on record for saying, hey, once that ball snaps, it can't be all on the trail, all the rest of that stuff. Like, you got to go out there and execute. And there was some piss poor execution, but again, you're not developing your quarterbacks. You're not putting them in good situations. I think that you have kind of mind fucked. Excuse my language, but you pretty much mind fucked Hawkins into trying to figure out, okay, I got to keep my eyes down the field. Guys are getting open, or whatever the case may be. You've mind fucked Jackson Arnold to the point where Jackson is trying to wait for the perfect scenario to happen, opposed to just throwing guys open, right? So it's just a lot right now. You're just very shaky, but.
Well, and I think I said this, besides who is a big time OC in our opinions. I think there's a list of them. We can go through it here in a second. I would say that I kind of felt this way yesterday. I said this on Twitter, and I probably said it in both of the shows, but you're talking about in 11 months' time, you've taken two quarterbacks that we both saw come in with supreme amounts of confidence and looking really timid. When you're talking about Hawkins, that happened in a matter of a couple of weeks.
They in hindsight, guys, they should have brought in Casey Thompson to replace J.A. in the Tennessee game as a short-term solution, because Hawkins is just not ready to play. That Saturday proved it. He's just not. He shouldn't be out there. He's just not ready to play. I mean, he might be ready to play with an elite offensive line and an elite running game, right? And then but without those things, he can't see the field. He's missing guys. He was, with all the myriad of problems, it was too much to give to a freshman quarterback. You should have gone. Is Casey even capable of playing right now? I have no idea. But you should have gone to a veteran quarterback who can complete a short passing game, and could have given Jackson time to sit back, reflect on what's going on, and then bring Jackson back in. That appears to me to be, and that speaks of a higher problem at the offensive line, at the offensive coordinator job, right? At the mentality of what's going on. You reach to Hawkins. You're just reaching at straws, right? You should have gone to Casey Thompson, fifth-year player, game manager, and then with the way the defense is playing, and you could have, a game manager would have been fine, right? It would have been perfectly
getting
fine.
The ball out fast, I agree with you, but they're not doing that.
Well, but I just think, but Chris, it's right to use the mind F line because it's not a word that really encapsulates it better than that. You've screwed up Hawkins for 3 or 4 weeks, right? And now you have to go back to Jackson Arnold. There's no point going back to Hawkins. You might as well run JA out there as long as he's healthy.
Yeah.
And run that and run whatever Jon Finley is going to run with him. Maybe those guys can get inside each other's mind and find some Lebby RPO mojo or whatever. I have no idea. But mentally, to go to Hawkins in hindsight was a mistake. They should have. If Casey Thompson can take a snap, they should have gone to Casey Thompson to settle things down and give J.A. a chance to reflect on the sidelines and then gone back to Jackson Arnold. But that's hindsight. It's 2020. That's kind of reinventing the wheel there a little bit. But that's what they should have done. That's why you brought him in. That's why he was here. So that's what they should have done. But everyone says big name offensive coordinator. So I'll go with the guy they should have hired last year and screwed it up. I want Andy Koltanecki from Penn State. Penn State's offense looks better than it has in the last 8 years. Should have hired him last year. It'll cost you more money to get him away from Penn State. Maybe I suspect that Franklin's a terrible boss and a terrible human being. Just from comments from some people. So maybe you can convince him to leave Penn State. But that's my first name. That's my first phone call. But I will say, guys, I'll repeat again. Names are going to start appearing, and you'll be like, "Whoa, where'd that name come from?" Because agents are going to now the job's open, and Littrell's gone, and you're not picking the dead body's been shuffled off to the side. You're going to start hearing names come open, and there are guys that would be very interested in. And I think the OU job beyond who you would think. I mean, remember, Chip Kelly ditched the UCLA job to go coach Ohio State.
Sure.
I mean, so that's the frame.
It's not out of the realm of possibilities. Absolutely.
That's the framework of where we are right now. Is that if you're an offensive coordinator, Brent will give me full autonomy, and all I need to do is improve this. I could sit at OU, build good offenses to go with great defenses for the next 4 or 5 years, collect $3 million a year, do it for 4 or 5 years, and then freaking retire, right? One thing to keep in mind, Garrett Riley appears to have fixed what's wrong with Clemson and Klubnik. To the level where they're playing much better football on offense. They
haven't really played anybody, though,
But they have, so I don't want Garrett
Jason,
Riley.
Compared to what we're doing.
I don't want Garrett Riley. I don't want Garrett. I'm just saying that's maybe what that's what you need to factor in with this hire next year. We're not going to be like 48 points again, right?
No. And I would just say,
get back to respectability and organization and cohesion. But there are lots of big names. So Koltanecki's my first choice. Jason, who is your number one choice?
My number one choice would be Will Stein. That would be my first choice.
And that's just to reflect for people who don't know, that's the Oregon offensive coordinator, right?
Oregon offensive coordinator, because to me, he probably brings with him Rashard Samples, who, with the connections that he has to Texas football, his dad being the head coach there at Duncanville, yeah.
Was Duncanville. I don't know if he's still there.
It is. It's still Duncanville. And actually, coach has got connections to those guys too, so we know them. But the thing is that I would just tell you that I think that those guys, now, if we're talking about keeping a guy long-term, I don't know that you really do that anyway, because if you go in and you do really well, he's definitely one of those guys that's really probably on the verge of getting a head coaching job. So you might only keep him a couple of years, That's what happened with Lebby as well. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, because if you only keep him a couple of years, that means you've done really well.
Yeah. You want coaches like
and replace him with another Will Stein, right? Yeah. You don't double back and say, "Oh, well, let's give somebody on his staff a shot." No. Keep hiring. Don't worry about it. Keep hiring big name offensive coordinators.
Correct. And I would say that, and for everybody that's talking, if we're talking Lincoln Riley, we all know that's bullshit. It's not going to happen. They're not going to connect anything to Lincoln Riley. So I love it that the jokes that are out there are hilarious, but that's never going to happen.
I can't believe they lost to Maryland. Wow.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely probably going to be available, but, my other guy would be Koltanecki. I like him as well. I think that I think they really should have made that push for him last year. I know Kchris and I had talked about it then, that he was probably and if you look at what Kansas is without him as the coordinator, and they've got their quarterbacks healthy. And
he changed my opinion of him this year simply because I thought his offense was really gimmicky, and now I see no, it's not. It can be very multiple when it needs to be. He can try to impose his will on you, but he will give you a lot of looks. And I mean, that's something that I would say I'm looking for a coach who, you know, pre-snap, what are we doing? We're not. The only thing we're doing is getting guys and nobody's falling for that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's falling for that whenever you're lining up 5 wide. And then you go like this right here, and then you go into a different formation. Nobody's falling for that. You're not doing anything that's actually making the defense say, okay, we have to adjust, we have to read, we have to do this, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Like I said, competent offensive play calling is what is this team is lacking.
I think there's a lot of those guys out there too. You know, the list that I have, you know, somebody just said in there, GJ Kinney, would he maybe come back from being a head coach, you know, at a lower level? I think he would. I think that, again, I think he's done a great job. You have to consider he was part of that Cam Ward maturation, if you want to call it that, from, you know, because he had him down there at Incarnate Word in San Antonio. And then he ended up at Washington State last year. Now, of course, he's killing it at Miami. But so I like GJ Kinney a lot. I think that Jeff Traylor is a guy that you might be able to entice him to come from UTSA to be the coordinator at Oklahoma. That'd be another good pick. I don't know how much that's a possibility. I think he's not too far away from being a head coach as well. Again, if you go, you have to take into consideration that Brent Venables' defense is going to be unbelievable, and you have the ability to recruit very well at Oklahoma. So if there's no reason that any coordinator wouldn't say, yes, I want to take a look at this. I mean, or any head coach that's an offensive guy wouldn't say, hey, I'll take a look at this. Not only is the money really good, but you're going to be paired up with a really good defense and the ability to go recruit with the best of them.
I mean, Texas is loaded with wide receivers every year, right? So you can get 3 elite wide receivers from Texas every year. I mean, you can.
Absolutely.
The O-line is a little more complicated, but, you know, figure out who your guy is and then move on from there, right? And then
I was just going to go ahead. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
I just finish my comment. Just real quick. What Jason said is there's talent. You can get talent easily on the offensive side of the ball. You can find quarterbacks in Texas. You can find wide receivers in Texas. So as an offensive coordinator, half of your job's already done being in Norman, Oklahoma, because you can get elite QBs and wide receivers from Texas. They exist in abundance. To you, Chris.
Hey, Richard Shear, he says, you are Oklahoma a blue blood. Tell everyone the job is open and let them come to you. They will reach out behind the scenes or their agent. Don't limit your search at all. Richard, I'm here to tell you right now, that's happening, right? So, I mean, I think we all, I agree with you on that, but I'm just saying that's happening right now. As we speak right now, I'm sure there are plenty of calls being made to all types of people, whatever the case may be. I know people keep bringing up Brennan Marion. Are you guys? I mean, I said it. I think I said it either on this pod or the last or 2 pods ago or whatever the case may be. I'm not the biggest fan of the go-go offense. I think that if he comes to OU, I don't think that could be your base offense. I think that has to kind of be a special look or just, you know, formations that you're giving them here and there. But I think that you have to run, you know, you have to run better offense. I don't necessarily know if we have a durable quarterback right now because, I mean, obviously, you know, Hawkins is taking some big hits. And I think it would be nice for Hawkins, but I don't know. I just not necessarily a fan of that offense just being your base offense, getting into this style of play here with the with our O-line having issues, them wanting to be so run heavy in that offense. I'm just not sure that that's a good marriage right now.
Here's what I would say about. Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
So real quick comment. The only thing I'll give Marion is they handled that quarterback disaster situation beautifully.
They did.
And the next guy was ready to play and hit it.
And they lost their quarterback from a year ago to USC. Their starting quarterback from a year ago is the backup at USC. He ought to be their damn starter at this point. But to me, I think that you have to look at this in terms of they have run the hell out of the ball out of that formation, and they can pass the hell out of that ball in that formation. It looks weird. It's not something, and you look at it as a gimmicky offense or whatever, and say what you want about that. In college football, the shit works, So I wouldn't just immediately poo-poo that. I would tell you that I think that it's not a terrible thought. I like Brennan Marion. I think he's an up and comer in this game. I also think he's another one of those guys that's probably going to end up with a head coaching job before too long. So if you can find a way to make that work out, and the players like him, that's the point. Is that there's going to be people that want to come and play for him. If you can win at UNLV, and telling you, living in Vegas for 13 years, they don't win shit at UNLV ever. So the fact that they've won the past few years, it means something to these kids, and it's a new offense that you can get out there and do some cool stuff in and score a lot of points. They score a shit ton of points, man.
And like I said, to your point, Jason, this is that their third string quarterback is playing his ass off. And because the Maivia kids at USC, right? And then they brought in the Sluka kid who quit on the team and basically Odom, to his credit, said, screw you. We'll just go with the guy we got. And that guy's ready to play. I mean, he's really ready to play. What style offense would fit BV's defense best? I'm not sure that you need a style of offense. Just score points, move the ball, be consistent, and be productive.
Most people would tell you pro style, right? Most people would say pro style, heavy run, that kind of stuff. You try to get the clock running a little bit, but I think one that gets first downs would do.
Let's be honest. If you have this year's defense with last year's offense, OU at minimum is 6-1, right?
Yeah.
With a shootout.
With an offense, sure.
With last year's offense, right? Last year's offense.
Mm-hmm.
With this defense, OU is 6-1, and that loss is a shootout with Texas and Dallas, where we go to the final quarter and we just don't know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
no doubt.
So we don't need. Any offense. Again, I'm agnostic on this. We don't need to be like Wisconsin, 2 tight ends, 280-pound H-back, fullback, and run the ball 50 times a game. We don't need to do that because that won't work when we power up against some better teams. We got to be able to pass the ball. So I don't know. I'm agnostic on this. Just go hire the guy and just give him the free reins and do whatever he wants.
Whoever it is, let him do his thing. I don't think that you can hire somebody that's really good and say, but you got to keep XYZ here because they're former Sooners. You can't do it. You can't do it. Or they're a long time part of this program, blah, blah, blah. Whoever they want, you got to let them bring that along with them.
And maybe they say, look, maybe they take one look at DeMarco in the running back room and say, man, this is you guys, this is not your guys' fault. Don't worry about it. You guys are fine. And if it's a year later, you're like, yeah, I can't work with the guy. He's got to go. Then he goes. But again, this is the crux of what's going on is the offensive line. Do you keep Bill? Do you jettison Bill? Has Bill been here too long? Is he burnt out? Is that why the coaching's not gone well this year? I had a lot of arguments with some folks back in the day whether Brent should have cleaned out the offensive staff when he got hired to just refresh everything going on. That's what it's getting down to. Emmett Jones, you can find wide receivers everywhere. There's so much wide receiver talent in the portal and everywhere else. And I'd love to keep him. I'm just not worried about wide receivers at this point.
David Chamberlain, he says the kind of offense Brent wants is a physical, angry run game and push the ball deep, high execution plays. That's what you thought you were getting in what's his name?
Seth
Littrell. Yeah, that's what you thought you were getting in Seth Littrell. That's kind of what you shifted from. That's what you thought you were getting in Levy as well, even though Levy was kind of
Well, the 2 years were different, right?
Yeah, I think at times Levy wanted to do that, but at times Levy got too cute with play calling as well. A bit stubborn, trying to run the same play twice, right then and there. Littrell, if you watch the North Texas film or whatnot, they want to run the ball. They want to it's a lot of inside game. And they want to push the ball down the field. For whatever it's worth, I don't know what he was doing. So definitely agree with you there. You see, talking about Ryan Grubb, there was another comment in here.
Seahawks put it on the Falcons today, so
yeah,
I'm not sure.
Do you go get are you wanting to get a pro guy? Or you want to get somebody in the college ranks?
Is Ryan Grubb really a pro guy just because he's coaching in the pros right now, or is he still a college guy in my mind?
You can say the same thing about go get Kingsbury. I know a lot of people probably don't want you to go get Kingsbury, but my whole thing is I need somebody who's going to come in here and be a recruiter still.
Yeah, I don't want. I'm with some of the people that are saying I don't want a connection to Texas Tech and that madness that's been going on. Anything that has to do with that. That's kind of where I'm at on it.
Georgia's offense is I don't know. I don't trust Georgia's offensive scheme, or certainly don't trust their QB development.
I'm about to say you don't trust Carson Beck. Carson Beck is not what
I didn't trust Mr. I was at Georgia for 7 years and I never graduated either. That team they should have lost to Ohio State. It's like the Tommy Boy line. You know what they call people who go to college for 8 years? Doctors. There's a name for people who go to college for 8 years. It's called doctors. Georgia's offense sounds great, just from what you're talking about, but Georgia has its pick.
Or Alan Bowman is another thing that you call them if they go to school for 8 years.
Exactly. Georgia's offense, Mike Bobo, I don't know. Todd Monken, Todd Monken did well at Georgia. Georgia's just loaded with talent. Georgia, guys, recruiting-wise, the two best defensive linemen in the country are both from Georgia. The three best senior rising defensive linemen that OU should be making offers to are all from Georgia. You're falling over with talent that it doesn't work for Oklahoma. It just doesn't. What you say? Well, Georgia does this. It doesn't work for Oklahoma. Georgia is in a completely different talent level position at every. Literally, they just walk out and just off. There's like 7 5-stars from the state of Georgia this year. We haven't had a 5-star from the state of Oklahoma in the last 10 years, other than David Stone. It doesn't work that way. Georgia's offense holds them back more than it extends their game, in my opinion. That defense is just so dominant that they could be running, they could be running the wishbone and it wouldn't really matter.
That's true. So would you?
I'm agnostic on it. Just get me someone who is dedicated to a scheme, and execute it and play call it, has a rhythm for play calling, is experienced, and knows how to develop quarterbacks as well, so that when he leaves, there is a complete framework for the next guy to pick up on, and who you're hiring. Like, okay, that completely worked. Let's go get a guy like that who's got play calling experience, knows he's going to come to OU, be here for 3 years, and then get his dream job. That's
okay. Throw Bobby Manning's comment up there. The guy there's someone like the Indiana offensive coordinator. That's Shanahan, correct?
No, it's Tim Sinceri, isn't it? It's Tino Sinceri.
Oh yeah, Sinceri.
Right. Google that.
And then you got Phil Cignetti is obviously their head coach, right?
Yeah,
Cignetti's their head coach, but a lot of people they're putting up a lot of damn points there. They're putting up a lot of damn.
All right,
points.
So he's at Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
He was a CFL quarterback.
It's Mike Shanahan, guys.
No,
it is Shanahan. Mike Shanahan. It's not Mike Shanahan.
All right, he's co-offensive coordinator at Indiana, Sinceri, and he's the quarterback's coach. So you got to grab him.
He's the offensive coordinator, wide receivers coach, Mike Shanahan.
Well, so's Sinceri, and he's the quarterback coach. They're co-offensive coordinators, and Cignetti's really the guy probably calling plays.
Right.
That's the concern. That's the concern because Cignetti's the guy, right? He's he's the guy. So that's the fool's gold that Indiana could be.
It is Mike. It is Mike Shanahan. Yes, at Indiana. Hold on, real quick. It's his son though, not Big Mike Shanahan, not Super Bowl winning coach Mike Shanahan. It is Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator / wide receiver coach is who they're talking about though. That's what I was getting at.
Look, Sinceri is the co-offensive coordinator. I'm literally looking at his title on their website.
I'm not arguing with you about that. I'm not arguing. I'm saying the one that I think people are talking about is Shanahan. You see
Shanahan okay.
out there a lot over the last couple of days. I'm not arguing the point.
Okay.
I know there's a co-situation in a lot of ways. They're looking at Mike Shanahan because of Kyle and because of his dad. These guys are.
Sunseri was at Alabama. He was at JMU as well. He was on Jimbo Fisher's staff, so we won't hold that against him. It would be an interest. I mean, if you get a higher name guy plus Sunseri as QB coach, that would be fine. I don't know. I mean, you want to get again Indiana. The concern is Signetti calling plays. That's my sense of it, right?
Probably
because that's his offensive.
Find out if you might go and get him. Why not go get him?
I'm gonna throw some names out here.
As head coach,
I'm gonna throw some names out here. I'm looking at this right now. Some people are saying, this is just a hot board, right? I'm just looking at just online real quick. Jeff Nixon at Syracuse. Then you got Zach Kitley down there at Texas Tech. Mike Shanahan, Indiana. We just literally just talked about him. Brendan Marion. And then I think some people have said Ben Arbuckle at Washington State.
Not related.
And then obviously Andy Colton-Necky.
Right. The Texas Tech guy was awfully innovative at Western Kentucky. They put up serious points and yards. Obviously, they just got their ass handed to them by Baylor on Saturday. So I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know that you can do the Whitley guy. I don't think he's been that good at Texas Tech to jump up to being the OU offensive coordinator in the mess we're currently in. I mean, I just don't think. I don't think he's been that. Does Texas Tech's offense just
say this about him? Kitley, they've been wanting to fire his ass for 2 years lately in Lubbock. Just so, I mean, and they did got their ass handed to them by Baylor. So, and they're supposedly, making a move in the Big 12. This is what you see at Texas Tech all the time. It's what, and we can say whatever. To be honest with you, what the hell has any of those guys done? Because Cliff couldn't win more than 7 games when he was there. He did the same shit whenever he failed up and got the job for the Cardinals. And then he's been a coordinator. Yeah, they may love him as a coordinator at Washington. I wouldn't want him. And the same thing goes for Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley's been a good coordinator. They're going to put points on the board, but none of these guys have been even a part of a championship winning program. None of them. I don't love the idea of bringing in more Texas Tech people. I just don't.
No, that's a lazy hire.
Lazy. Yeah, I mean, I think you again use. I think Brent's going to have a very interesting pool of resumes. The question will be if he decides he wants to steal someone like Will Stein or Colton-Necky, can he get that done? Does Dan Lanning? Both of those guys be like, nah, I'm not. I'm a year away from getting a head ball coach job. I don't need to take the gamble of this kind of a transition.
What about Dillingham out there at Arizona State? How are they doing?
I don't think he's losing his job yet, but I like him.
He's not dropping the Arizona State head job to come to OU, be an offensive coordinator.
No, I don't.
I don't think he would either.
I think if he was getting fired, you could get him, but I don't think he's getting fired yet. He's won games. He beat Utah, so
yeah. The Big 12's a mess. Big 12's an absolute. I mean, Mike Gundy might be free.
Yeah, I meant Kenny Dillingham. Excuse me, guys, but no, I don't know necessarily where you turn. I want a good recruiter. I want a guy like you said that's gonna come in here and stick to a scheme, have a real scheme, run real offense, competent offense, keep our defense off the field, not putting our defense in really precarious situations. Somebody who can develop the talent. The talent is there at quarterback, but you're gonna have to come here and untangle what has been tangled up by the previous staff, because this right now is just not a good situation.
No, I again, there's lots of good names. I just don't want Brent to limit himself to something where it has to be some power running scheme. Find a guy you like. That's good, Mr. John. Like that name a lot. But not at all. Charlie Weiss Jr. Yeah, I don't think so.
I see a guy here talking about Boise State's OC as well, and I'm just like,
I mean, you okay? So let's be honest. Again, we've all said this is Brent's job on the line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You this is your dream. You waited until the OU job was open. You got it second time around. Maybe it was a mistake you didn't get the first time around. You got it the second time around. Your defense is now close to being where you want it to be. You've got a lot of great young defensive players. You cannot. I got to drop an F-bomb. You cannot fuck up this hire.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get another one. This is it. Because you cannot gamble on someone. You can't gamble on someone, so the other thing is, guys, the NIL world has made our big money donors more powerful than they've ever been, right? We all know this.
True.
Okay. They're not going to give you the money in NIL unless you make a massive you need the NIL money for the next 2 recruiting classes. They're not going to give you the big money unless you
got to win.
And you've got to hire a big name, right? Someone where big money donors go. That effing works. I can buy that. Here's a check. Here's an extra $500K. Here's an extra $2 million in our NIL budget to keep our recruits on board. Done. I love this hire. Here's another $5 million.
A good question
to go get guys in the portal.
I think it goes right behind what you're just saying. Sooner Legend says, panel, will this hire make or break Brent Venables? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think this is what his legacy hinges on right here. If you make a bad hire here and they don't get better, and
OU has to go
built there.
Hot take: OU has to go at least 8-4 next year for Brent to still have his job.
I think so too. I think he's on the hot seat after this season. If they
go 5-7, which we have no reason to presume they're not, they're a 3-touchdown underdog to Ole Miss. They're probably going to be a double-digit underdog against Missouri. LSU seems to be finding their way. Exactly. I don't know about where you're. I don't know about the babes in Medellin, but yeah, you are correct. love the username, but yeah, I mean you again. OU goes 5-7, 6-6, and it's a bad 5-7, like we're trending. Brent has to win 8 games next year, or he's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bob.
Jaden O'Neal probably looking around right now. We're probably a couple of weeks away from him decommitting. I mean, I'm not talking to Jaden O'Neal, and he could say everything positively that he wants, but he's a superstar 26 quarterback, and everybody in college football who doesn't have that 26 quarterback has got to be calling him.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Don't even factor that into your discussion, because it's outside the realm. So just
it's the easiest thing in the world to do, right? You're gonna negative recruit the hell out of Oklahoma right now when it comes to offense. So you better go get the big splash hire. Bobby was talking about up and coming G5 OC who is schematically dynamic, or a Power 4 really, really good wideout / wide receivers or running backs coach with recruiting ties to several schools in the South to promote. Yeah, I get where you're going with that.
If you were just coming off a 10-2 season,
facts,
and you can hire that guy.
I think that's where you get a guy like Samples, right? That's where you make that hire with Samples because of his connections to all these coaches in Texas, right?
Guys, that's where you were at last year.
That's not where you are now. That's not where you are now. I think today, right now, you have to go get the guy that is immediately going to turn the offense into very good, or at the very worst, top 35, top 40 in the country. to pair with this amazing defense that you have.
Right. So
gotta
think
do it.
about
You
this.
gotta
Think
do
about
it.
this as a credit card account, right? So last year, the end of last year, with his recruiting, Brent had like a credit rating of like $100,000. Okay. He has blown through that entire credit rating through these 7 games this year. He's at 0 credit. He's got 0 credit rating. Okay. He needs to hire someone to get him a little more credit back for the offseason to get us through the offseason. But he's coaching for his dream job life next fall.
Yeah.
He is.
And if you get CJ Breeze is saying, you know, with the splash hire, it's doubtful that you're going to get a top 10 guy. And I get what he's talking about. That why would they leave their current situation for OU? Well, because if their current situation isn't a place like OU, and you can first, you got to look at it as, okay, they come in and they're really good on offense, but say for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out for Venables. Again, he's going to be on the hot seat if they go 5-7. There's no two ways around it. So what is that going to require the year after that for you to stay? I don't know. It could mean that you got to get to 9 wins. That's not going to be an easy thing to do with this schedule that they've got. It's not going to be easy because you flip it next year. Now, why would you take that job if you're a top end offensive coordinator? Because, you know, we've seen it happen before where these guys, they slide into the head coaching position. If it's a guy like Will Stein and you think that he can be a head coach anyway, you make that hire right now. And if it doesn't work out with Venables, you slide him into that position.
All right, guys, this is their schedule next year.
Go ahead.
Illinois State in Norman, Michigan in Norman, Temple in Norman, K-State in Norman, and then we don't know the order of it, but Texas in the Cotton Bowl, at Alabama, Auburn at home, LSU at home, Ole Miss at home, Missouri at home, at South Carolina, at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know that it's as tough with the road games that you've got this year, but it's the same schedule essentially.
Well, and obviously I think Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee also have huge graduation, huge NFL departures. There's a lot of they're losing a lot of their rosters, and Alabama's kind of all over the place right now. Who knows what happens to that program in the offseason?
After losing to Tennessee last night, I mean
and then they drop a couple more games, things get a little weird there. It's a better schedule at home, but the Michigan game. Who's coaching Michigan? I mean,
Yeah.
Kind of the question about who you replace Bill Biedenbaugh with, the obvious answer is Sharon Moore if he doesn't have a show cause letter, and Michigan lets him go. But Michigan's only letting him go if he's a show cause letter, so you can't hire him. So it's sort of a redundant. He's off the board as your Bill replacement, one way or the other. So, but I mean that's 8-4 next year. If you have to go 8-4 with progress and improvement, and with a quarterback who is ready to lead a team in 2026 with a loaded junior, senior defense to compete for the SEC with an easier schedule, new schedule, get you in the playoffs.
I agree. I think that that's why you do it too, though. And that's the other reason that a coordinator that's really good would look at this and be like, well, his defense has won 2 national championships at Clemson. They didn't win shit before they got there. They weren't winning, They were just kind of that middle of the road ACC team. And they went.
Clemsoning was a verb. Clemsoning was a verb. Oh, I just Clemsoned that. We just Clemsoned that.
They were middle of the road, man. They were middle of the road, and so you look at it in when he got there, they had not just a really good offense, but they had a really good defense. And look what happened. They won 2 national championships and played for 2 more. Yeah, I don't.
And the playoff gives you even more margin for error. So
it does. But I think that you have to make a big swing at it if you're Coach V, and I think that he knows that, because if you heard the words that he said yesterday, read them. It's out there for everybody to see that this is not the standard. This is not the standard at OU, and he knows as well as anybody what the standard is and he helped rebuild it whenever he was there with Coach Stoops. So to me, he knows what's going on. He knows what's going on. He knows where they're at. And believe me, he wants to win as bad as anybody. I don't want to see Venables leave.
No. I think what Venables has done here has been nothing but short of amazing, and given that he's inherited a lot of sins of the father, the poor offensive line recruiting. You've recruited some guys, but you haven't been able to A, play your guys, or B, be able to, truly stack those classes, right? You really, you put a lot of emphasis on the offensive side of the ball, defense, this and that. He's had to deal with a lot. I think the 2022 season, that's kind of the mulligan year. Last year was kind of, okay, this is more of the standard of what we're used to. This year has just been kind of an anomaly itself, simply because the offensive woes that have been. But I think that OCs would be really, really excited about what you're potentially bringing back, what you're potentially bringing in. The weapons that you do have here. And I mean, this hire is not necessarily make or break just for BV's job. It's make or break for the continuity of this offense going forward, simply because you got guys like Sawchuk, who we don't know what really is happening there. Guys like Tatum that you want to be a part of this team going forward, because honestly, he's your best back. The Caleb Hicks of the world. You want to hang on to some of these guys. You got to find somebody who's going to come in here and make those running backs, make those wide receivers want to stay and want to play in that offense. You want to find somebody who's going to be able to say, okay, this is what we're not going to do. Anytime that we're running blocking assignments, we might as well put Helms, McIntyre, or a guy like Jake Roberts out there, opposed to putting Bauer Sharp on an island. Let's use him like a Grant Calcaterra, which is what he actually is. We can block with him occasionally, but just like I said, just competency, man. But I think that you look at this team, you say, okay, I know there's injuries. I know this right here. If all is well going into fall camp, into the first game, we should be pretty explosive because we have guys, we have length, and we have good coaches on the staff. And I think that next year, I don't necessarily see the offensive line having the same woes, but you got to go get guys. But like I said, I think offensive coordinators see that. And I think that over these next couple of weeks, you're going to hear a lot about this OC, that OC, this person from this school, that person from that school, back channels, all the rest of this stuff. If you're really, really into this program like that, you got, just some eyes on the street or whatnot, you're going to hear a lot about that. But I do believe this will be a highly coveted job, not only because they know what's on the defensive side and they can rely on that, but just the weapons that are here. We just need somebody to come and fix that. And I don't think this is going to be an overnight fix. I think it's going to take time, but I think that as soon as you can get that guy in, you got to get that guy in.
But one thing I said, like folks talking about like Boise State's OC and like throwing out names. Guys, this is going to be a big name hire.
No,
they're going to be big name guys are going to want this job because the money's going to be there. And like you said, you fix this offense in 2 years, you got a head coaching job somewhere else if that's what you want. Or you could get pay raises to the highest amount, because if you fix this offense and Brent's got the defense fixed, then this will be a stable place. I mean, Oklahoma's a cheap place to live. You can just sit, earn money, and just keep cashing those checks. But it's going to be a big name. It's not going to be someone we're like, who's that? It's going to be a big name. I don't know where, but it'll be a big name because the name's already, the name's already flying around a little bit, and maybe those names are bullshit, maybe they're not, but it's going to be a big name. And Brent, by firing Seth, has put us, just like if you notice, coaches got fired today. Southern Miss, someone else got let go somewhere else. I'm trying to remember.
Graham Harrell, and they just got rid of.
Well, I'm talking about head coach. Head coaches are getting dismissed.
They just fired a head coach today, I saw.
Southern Miss and a couple of Brent has put OU at the front of the line for the OC job, right? Like, while other schools are maybe thinking what they're doing, Brent went, nope. Big flag. Where you need a guy, you can now you can send your resume in. You didn't want to do it because Jon Finley, I mean, it's interim offensive coordinator. I mean, it's interim. I mean,
it's interim, right?
It's interim. It's IOC. So big names will start putting their names in. Agents will start reaching out and coordinating.
Yeah.
OU will start having agents contacted. We'll start contacting agents and say, "Is your guy ready to move to OU? If it does your guy want an OU job? Yes or no?"
Yeah, Brian Hartline would probably be another one of those guys too. I think he's been head coach in waiting though for a while at Ohio State. So I think he's a big name because of the recruiting, right?
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah, so I mean, I think Chip Kelly's blocking him, right? He's blocking him. I mean, how long is Chip going to do this for? I don't know, but I'm just saying.
I don't know how long they stay with after losing to Oregon. You know what I mean? They're throwing ridiculous shit fits in.
Well, that's a Will Howard problem, in my opinion. I went the wrong people.
Columbus, Ohio thing though. It's just it's how they are.
Yeah. But I mean, just saying, don't think of small names being hired. This is I've landed the big fish in the offseason at offensive coordinator Brent Venables, confidently saying that to a room of big money donors. Now I need big money for NIL guys to buttress up the roster mistakes we've made. I hired the big name. I'm going to let him run the offense, and I'm going to focus on special teams, defense, and game management, and let this guy run the freaking offense. That's what he does.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that Zia's Bilou says thoughts on Brian Hartline, fellas. Although I think that's a long shot. I don't know how a long shot it would be if they wanted him, because has
he called plays?
I don't think he hasn't called plays.
Then he's a long shot.
That's the question. That is, I guess, the question. That would be the long shot. There is whether or not
Brent cannot.
No, I don't think he can. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. Then I mean, I think the fact that he hasn't been a play caller
disqualifies.
It only disqualifies him though, but except for the fact that the receivers that they've brought in there for the last few years, I mean, you got to think about it. He's got arguably the best freshman in the country. We're bitching and complaining about not getting
you didn't tell me Jeremiah Smith is coming with him.
Well, I didn't say he was. I'm just telling you, not only has he had Jeremiah Smith, but he also, I mean, think about it. He's also just every guy in that room is going in the first round. Although, right. I mean,
I got you, but
so I'm telling you, I agree with what you're saying, Chris. I agree with what you're saying. I don't think that they go get him because I think it's a gamble for Brent to do that. It'd be a big gamble. Would recruit very well. You need a guy that you know is X's and O's guru. You have to just assume that he's learned something from the guys that he's working with, but I don't know. I think it might be a long shot, but I also think recruiting wise, it might be a gamble that you take.
It's not. This is
maybe not this year though.
It's not this, you can't do that this year. And wide receiver, there are wide receivers everywhere. I mean, Ohio State has had the best receiving core in college football the last 6 years and still hasn't won a national championship. Lost to Michigan the last 2 years badly. So what? I don't know. Hartline. If you had just gone 10-2 and you were like, I'm going to make a flashy hire, I got some equity to spend in my bank. Sure. You got no equity. You have no equity. You literally went to the bank today and you're like, I need to withdraw $100,000 from my bank account. I'm sorry, that got stolen by a scammer in the offseason. Some Nigerian prince cleared out your bank account.
That's
so you have no money. You need to rebuild offensive equity. Defensive equity, you're great, right?
Sure.
You built it all up. You built it all up now, right? All right.
True.
But your offensive bank account has been withdrawn and emptied out. Some Nigerian prince had $1 billion party at somewhere, champagne everywhere. It's gone. It has evaporated completely. All offensive equity it's like a stock that just tanked.
True.
Look, people, we've
been going for a while. You ready?
Yeah,
ready?
I was about to say, man, we look 7 games into the season. before the season even started, if you told me that we're here where we're at now, I would have laughed at you and I said, "Nah, you're crazy. You're just hating." But
I could buy 5-2. You told me we lost to Tennessee and we lost to Texas. I'd be like, yeah, that sucks, but all right, maybe I can understand that.
yeah,
Blown out by South Carolina at home. Worst loss since 2014. An ominous year, by the way. 2014, ominous year. Fired the whole staff. Big changes. Bob kind of coaching for his job, sort of. There's a lot of echoes. That loss in margin has a lot of echoes back to 1998, 2014, whatever bad season you want to talk about.
What is this question about Bob's brother coming home? Who are we talking about?
Mark
Stoops.
Are they going to fire him or something?
No, I think people. So, Jason, last comment: a large population or a vocal population of our fan base have already moved on to our next head coach.
Oh yeah, God, you can't go there.
Mark Stoops is a name I've seen a lot of people suggest.
Oh my God, no.
I'm just saying, people when you're in the desert, lost, you see mirages everywhere, and you grab sand thinking it's water.
That's very true. That is very true. I'm not out on BV just yet, people. I think
not out on BV either. Me neither.
But yeah, no, go ahead. Everybody like on both channels, do all those different things. Any parting shots, guys?
Not really. Go ahead.
I'm fascinated to see a Jon Finley executed called offensive game plan on Saturday. I mean, Jon has been abused more than Littrell on most fan sites I know and most fans I know. So it'll be fascinating to see what that actually looks like. I have no idea. It's like a brand new season. It's a brand new OU offense. What will we look like? Is it smoldering? Is it the same bag of smoldering crap, or is it a different bag of smoldering crap?
I'll jump in here and say this right here. Just gotta hope for the best, guys, and hope that the offensive play calling it just simplified. Don't go out there trying to put, say, hey, look, we still got this Lamborghini, but we don't have the right parts. But hell, it's broken down. It's got 3 flats. So instead of putting those low profiles on there, we're gonna go put Pirellis that we just got from Walmart on there, right? Like, you can't do that. Like, this, you just make it simple. Just say, hey, we're gonna get this Uber real quick to go get the actual parts. Like, just do what you got to do, man. Because Lane Kiffin his team needs a win that's going to galvanize that team, and I can promise you, Lane Kiffin will try to embarrass you.
No doubt.
How Beamer tried to embarrass us.
Beamer tried to embarrass us because he knows that his team is not necessarily going anywhere. They're going further than us, but he knows that that's not necessarily going to happen again. That was never going to happen. He was beaming.
He's going to pound his chest for now because he's going to keep his job for now. But when it comes to what they are and what they will be, come on, let's be real about that. South Carolina is always going to be what they are today. It doesn't matter who the hell's there. And Beamer's a clown, guys. Yeah. Come on.
Jason, what's your last shot, man?
That was it. No, I'm just look.
It was definitely a shot, but
it was definitely a shot. I'm not a fan of Beamer. And especially after the shit he said at halftime yesterday. Fuck that guy. But I'm all right with. I think that this is just the start of this thing. I'd love to see them just kind of turn it around a little bit, and if they can do that, look, man, it's not. You can't have a lot of expectations for what they're about to go in there and do. If it just looks like they're even somewhat serviceable this week, then, great. You got to get it turned in the right direction. But I do think that they're doing that, and I think that the feelers are already out there. They're looking towards the future with this whoever the OC hire is. They will leave no stone unturned, and like you guys have both said, there's people reaching out to them. So, just got to stay behind it and see kind of what comes down the pike. But I think that this was a move in the right direction. It was a move in the right direction. That's about all you could hope for at this point.
Yeah, and that's sad to say. Never want to see anybody lose their job, but this had to happen, guys. So, look, Horns Down Podcast, Hall of Fame football college podcast as well. Chris Mason with Sooners 360. Like, subscribe, do all those different things. Go and follow all the links and everything. Like on both channels. Subscribe to all channels on here. And yeah, I think we'll be back sometime this week for sure, because there's going to be a lot more information that's going to come out of this. And you already know we'll all be back for I hopefully we'll all be back for the post game of the Ole Miss game, win or lose, Jason and Chris. So hopefully that will happen. But people, I think we're going to call it a night.